What do you got? What do you got? What do you got? Talk to me. Talk to me.
Put the camera down. Put the camera down. You need to open up test rig right now.
What if I told you the creature we call Bigfoot isn't the only legend lurking in the wild? From the dense forests of Appalachia to the haunted canyons of the Southwest, reports keep flooding in. Creatures that defy logic, science, and even fear itself. So who really rules the wild? From the dense woods of North America to the icy tundras of Siberia and the deep caves of Appalachia, mysterious beings have haunted legends for centuries. But one question remains: who truly dominates the untamed wild? In this video, we'll pit Bigfoot against the fiercest land cryptids ever reported, and uncover which of these legends stands at the top of the food chain.
That was as clear as day. Did you just see?
I heard the rock drop, dude. I heard the rock just fall.
Up there! Dude, I'm getting away from that, bro.
Hellbent Holler is a YouTube channel famous for its tech-driven, boots-on-the-ground investigations into Sasquatch, Dogman, and the paranormal. Led by Joe and Jesse Lee, a dedicated two-person research team based out of the Carolinas, they specialize in exploring the southern Appalachian wilderness, a region steeped in mystery and brimming with reports of strange phenomena.
It seems like a lot of crazy activity has been going on every time we come out here.
Unlike others in the field, their approach combines advanced equipment with an immersive presence in remote, often dangerous terrain. Their fieldwork covers everything from Bigfoot to cryptid creatures like Dogman, as well as odd lights in the forest and unexplained sounds that seem to echo through forgotten places. In their investigation titled The Dogman of Grove Lake, the team returns to a location where they previously captured signs of possible Sasquatch activity. But this time, the energy in the forest feels different, darker, heavier. Something has shifted. From the start, they document small footprints along the shoreline, impressions that appear disturbingly tiny beside Joe's size 12 boot. These tracks, although not definitive, trigger immediate suspicion that they're dealing with more than one type of entity in this area. They mention having already captured a thermal anomaly of something peeking out from behind a tree during a prior outing.
You see it? You see that eye shine? It's looking from behind the tree.
I'm not seeing her shine.
It's looking from behind the tree.
Oh, yeah. I just saw it.
It just went behind the tree.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Not just a shape, but the gleam of eye shine caught in the lens, suggesting an intelligent presence watching them from the shadows. The creature disappears before they can capture more. It becomes clear that they've entered an area where the boundaries between the normal and the unexplained begin to blur. Strange sounds, unshakable feelings of being watched, and subtle tree formations all seem to echo a language written in mystery. You'll want to witness how the environment shifts as they examine the altered forest structures, study the bent trees, and react to the intense silence that blankets the grove.
We keep hearing strange sounds. We keep finding these weird structures. So it seems like it's almost a grab bag of Sasquatch activity.
Watch yourself. The evidence builds here. The forest doesn't just hold secrets, it speaks them, sometimes in the most horrifying ways. One such moment unfolds when the team prepares to track down a scream they heard earlier, not fleeing from it, but walking straight toward it.
Oh my God.
The scream isn't just a loud noise, it's layered, emotional, and hauntingly painful, like something crying out in grief or warning. As they begin navigating through the thicket towards the direction of the wail, the tone of the investigation changes. There's an unspoken understanding that they could be approaching something sentient, possibly territorial, and very real. Armed with a Sony camera and a directional shotgun mic, they push forward, trying to record any further audio evidence. But the deeper they go, the quieter they become, both out of caution and a growing sense that the creature is nearby. As dusk begins to fall, and the sky dims into that brief, eerie phase of twilight, they remind viewers of the word crepuscular, used to describe creatures most active at dawn and dusk.
Just like at the LBL, right at like the edge of night.
Crepuscular is what that's called. Those are creatures that are most active at dusk and dawn.
Right.
The timing isn't lost on them. Their surroundings, the energy, even the way the sounds bounce between trees. Everything begins to mirror their past experiences in similarly active hotspots like land between the lakes. The moment is tense and filled with dread as they listen for another cry.
I got the second one.
What in the hell was that?
That sounded like a humanoid, not a person, but crying out and crying out.
Each step forward, fueled by equal parts curiosity and instinctual fear. Don't miss the buildup of this critical turning point as it unfolds in real time. Watch closely and listen carefully. With night pressing in, things begin to break down. Joe's thermal imager won't power on at first. A moment of frustration and concern, especially given they've already lost another unit during a previous investigation.
What's wrong?
My thermal's not coming on.
What?
There it goes. I about flipped out.
Yeah. We've already lost one thermal imager
I know.
a couple months ago.
These aren't just gadgets to them, they're lifelines. Once the device finally activates, they decide to take a route toward a beach that eventually connects to a service road. It's quieter there, a more strategic path where they can still observe and listen without being overwhelmed by the terrain. Yet, just as they begin to relax, the calm is broken again. From the darkness, something rumbles. A low, deep growl, not close.
I think that's just natural.
Oh my God.
What do you got? What do you got? What do you got? Talk to me. Talk to me.
Put the camera down. You need to open up Chesterfield right now.
What's going on?
I don't know. I heard something deep over there.
But not far enough to dismiss. It's guttural, heavy, and seems to come from within the forest to their right. Jessie freezes. Joe immediately tells her to stop filming and focus. There's no panic, only a shift in seriousness. The way the sound cuts through the quiet tells them everything. This isn't just an animal. It feels directed, an assertion of presence. Jessie scrambles to open her gear, her hands moving fast but controlled. Joe stands steady, scanning with thermal and watching for movement. The forest falls silent again, but the tension doesn't leave. Instead, it hangs around them like fog, thick and impossible to ignore. They've entered the domain of something watching them closely, and for a moment, everything they know about tracking, about cryptids, and about wilderness safety seems to teeter on the edge of something primal. That sound wasn't casual. It was intentional. And it changed the tone of the night. Don't skip this moment. It's one of the clearest indications that something might be stalking them. Watch the shift in their body language as it happens.
I think that's just natural.
Oh my God.
What do you got? What do you got? What do you got? Talk to me. Talk to me.
Put the camera down. You need to open up Chesterfield right now.
What's going on?
I don't know. I heard something deep over there.
In the forests of Canada, the backwoods of Oklahoma, and the icy highways of Alaska, 3 encounters stand out, not because of what they showed, but because of what stared back. Faces. Not blurry outlines or distant silhouettes, just unblinking, motionless, almost too human expressions watching from the edges of wilderness. Each one was caught on camera, briefly, and analyzed by Bob Gimlin in one of his most unsettling breakdowns. These aren't just creepy sightings. The first photo comes from Little Limestone Lake in Manitoba, Canada. A seemingly ordinary image, just two people standing at the lake's edge. But behind them, near the tree line, there's a figure.
Amiss at the time. It wasn't until 2 weeks later that a friend of theirs named Malcolm spotted the figure in the background, and it was Malcolm who sent the image.
Its shape is dark, head partially visible, and what appears to be two eyes fixed directly at the camera. It's subtle, almost too subtle, but zooming in, contrast enhanced, and slowed down frame by frame, Bob points out key features. The forward tilt of the head, the deep-set eye sockets, and a shape that doesn't align with anything natural in the background. This isn't deep wilderness, but it's remote enough that a person crouching that close to strangers seems unlikely. There's no motion blur, no second photo, just that one eerie frame, and 1,000 questions.
This is either a rather extreme case of Paridolia, as in nothing at all, or it's exactly what it looks like. And what does it look like?
The third image is arguably the most disturbing. A truck driver stops along Alaska's Dalton Highway to take a landscape photo. Later, when reviewing the picture, he notices something strange near the trees. It's not obvious at first, but once seen, it's impossible to unsee. A figure standing still, blending into the environment, but its face tilted and slightly off-center is visible. It has depth, uneven features, and looks nothing like a human. Bob examines the image's context, the extreme remoteness of the area, the absence of other people, and the size of the figure when compared to nearby trees.
Again, Survivor Man's Romanian Bigfoot could be an example of that, some would say. But on the flip side, it always gets me because
there's no reason someone would be standing there in the middle of nowhere. And if it isn't someone in a suit, then we're looking at one of the clearest Bigfoot face captures ever taken. Then, the infant theory comes up, one that always seems to surface. Bob's quick to admit, if there were no reports of Bigfoots with infants, then half the sightings wouldn't exist. But here, it's a little different. There's what appears to be a smaller, diminutive face in the frame.
So you call yourself a Bigfoot researcher, and this was in the beginning of 2016, and he didn't notice anything or say anything.
Bob says his eyesight isn't great, but even he can spot it. Whether it's truly an infant or just an illusion, he can at least understand why people think it might be. The face is small, tucked close to the center of the figure, and while other odd shapes, like skull-like markings or creepy facial smears, vanish when he adjusts the color, that one supposed infant face stays put. But more intriguing is the arm position. They're not visible.
And it looks like this arm cuts off abruptly, or what looks like the arm cuts off abruptly, but it doesn't.
Because, Bob argues, they're likely in front of the figure, not folded, not at the side, just positioned awkwardly as if holding something. If it's a hoax, it's a weird choice of pose. If it's real, it suggests protectiveness, maybe even maternal behavior. At first, he thought the figure was gripping the tree, but no, there's no break in the trunk. And that subtle arm angle, that awkward but deliberate stance doesn't look staged. It looks like something holding on to something valuable.
What the claim has going for it is that the arms aren't visible, meaning they're in front of it. If it is a Bigfoot, or even a person, it probably is holding something.
Still, Bob stays grounded. He admits this isn't a definitive sighting. It's not even particularly compelling compared to other, clearer cases. But it's undeniably interesting, especially when paired with details like the foul smell reported nearby and the isolated location. And when it comes to the idea of hoaxing, he's skeptical, not because he believes it's a Bigfoot, but because it doesn't make sense as a prank. Who would stage something this vague for clout? And why? He dismisses the idea that someone would go through the trouble to send him this for fame.
Though I'm first to admit, I don't trust myself on matters of Paridolia. I have a video about this.
In his experience, sending a blurry photo of something strange isn't exciting. It's awkward, often unfulfilling, and never glamorous. Bob makes a point that's hard to argue with. It's far more likely that this photo was either a misidentification or a creepy fluke, a strange person caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. But still, there's that lingering third option. What if it wasn't a hoax? What if it wasn't a person at all? Not in the way we define people, anyway. As he wraps up, he notes a powerful pattern among all three photos. The people who took them didn't realize what they'd captured until later. And in each case, the figure in the photo...
All three of these photos have two things in common. First, the respective photographers were unaware of what they captured at the time.
Seems to be observing the humans, never the other way around. That detail, he stresses, feels important. Whatever these things are, they're watching us. They study us, quietly, from the edge of the frame.
And two, whatever they filmed was observing them, perhaps even curious about them.
Bigfoot Sighting in Washington. Salish Sasquatch is a YouTube channel famous for showcasing some of the most compelling Bigfoot evidence ever captured on private land. Jonathan and Sarah Brown live on an Indian reservation in Washington state and have spent over a decade documenting activity.
If you're unaware of our property, we've had a family group of Sasquatch that we've been observing and collecting data on for almost 12 years. It'll be 12 years in September.
From what they believe is a family group of Sasquatch living on their property. This area, known to some podcast listeners as the Brown Property, has become a focal point for serious Sasquatch research. The Browns have collected everything from eyewitness accounts to thermal imaging footage, which many consider the best visual proof of a Sasquatch in existence.
He drives truck and just east of Rife Lake off the 300 road. He was driving his truck and Sasquatch jumped out in front of his truck and right in front of his front grill, ran over 100 yards in front of him.
One of the latest stories shared from the Cascades region involves a truck driver traveling through Washington state when something massive darted out in front of his vehicle. It ran over 100 yards down the road before veering off toward the river.
And at least 9 feet tall and heavily matted blackish fur and this terrible stench.
Descriptions suggest a creature around 9 feet tall with matted blackish fur and a stench so foul it left an unforgettable imprint. This sighting spurred an immediate response from locals and researchers alike. As the truck driver made his way downhill in a dump truck, the creature jumped off a slope and ran straight down the road alongside them.
The creature jumped off the hill right there and ran down the road to where we're all parked down there and then darted down the trail.
It was level with the windshield, moving at an incredible pace before veering into a trail near the tree line. The sheer size and build of the creature, broad shoulders, a tapered waist, and shaggy black-brown fur, made an impression no one present would forget. The man didn't see its face, only its powerful frame and the overwhelming smell it left behind. He had never considered Bigfoot a reality until that day, when a friend convinced him the creature he saw matched no bear he'd ever heard of. That single conversation pulled together the community, launching an immediate on-site investigation that has remained ongoing. Catch a glimpse of this account unfold right in front of the camera, where you can almost feel the weight of what was seen.
I just saw a Bigfoot. I thought it was a bear at first, but I've never seen a bear that big in my life. I didn't know what I had seen. That's the only logical thing that I could think of was it was a bear.
Another account comes from just outside a mortuary building, where a witness watched a dramatic encounter between a deer and a bear in his front yard.
The deer and the bear came around the other side of the mortuary building, and they were coming straight at me. I was watching it the whole time. The bear looked like it was about to get the deer.
As the deer escaped, it ran across a lit area near a power station and collapsed under a streetlight, out of breath.
I watched it kind of the whole time in the shadows until it finally got to the highway. There was a highway, and then it goes straight up a hillside.
What caught the witnesses' attention, though, was not the deer, but the movement in the shadows that followed. A dark, crouched figure passed in front of the mortuary lights, moving slowly, deliberately, as if stalking. It moved through the cemetery parallel to the witness's position, staying low until it reached the highway.
The road 2 or 3 steps, and it was gone up the hillside. And so I didn't know what I had seen at that point. I hadn't really ever heard about Bigfoot. I didn't know where to categorize that.
At the road's edge, the figure suddenly stood upright, revealing itself in full. The classic silhouette, broad frame, long limbs, and upright stride mirrored the famous Paddy figure from the Patterson-Gimlin film. In just a few strides, it crossed the highway and vanished up the hillside. This moment changed everything for the witness, who at the time had no idea what a Sasquatch even was.
The closest thing that I had a frame of reference to was like a werewolf. So I just assumed for the longest time, well, what I saw, maybe it was a werewolf.
He thought it might be a werewolf, his only frame of reference. Years later, that same house would produce yet another chilling moment. As he watched TV one night from a recliner near the window, he saw a pair of yellow eyes peering in from the dark. The eyes reflected the light from inside the house, watching him, silent and unblinking.
We didn't really have a whole lot. We didn't have TV or anything like that. And at the end of the day, I would quite frequently look out the window and look across to see if I could see any deer in the graveyard.
That encounter left a fear so deep, it burned into his memory for decades. You can feel the eerie calm before the realization hits. Experience it for yourself. Not every encounter on the Brown property comes with visuals, but the soundscape alone is enough to stir belief. Longtime locals report whoops and howls echoing through the hills, especially at night.
Even another old friend of mine, he used to go with us a lot too. He's been up there a few times when my old neighbors heard it. I don't think he's ever said he's seen something, but he's said he's heard it quite a few times.
An old friend of the Browns, who had joined them several times for outings, admitted he had never seen the creature himself, but he'd heard it. The noise was unlike anything else in the woods. It's common in this area to hear such stories, whispered quietly among neighbors. Most don't come forward, afraid of being mocked or dismissed. But when someone does, like in the following account, it adds yet another thread to the growing pattern. One early morning, around 3:30 a.m., a man and his friend drove through the Packwood area towards the Xiao's Pass for a hunting trip. This region, already flagged by friends for Bigfoot activity, always made him extra alert.
So I've always been kind of aware of the Bigfoots being in that area. And so every time I go through there, I'm looking, to see if I can see a Bigfoot.
Around 5 a.m., heavy rain poured down as they cruised along Highway 12. As they neared the pass, the driver noticed a bush beside the guardrail, but something felt off. As their headlights illuminated it, the bush seemed to form into a figure.
I could see basically the head and the body and arm and stuff, and he was standing like quartered away from me like this.
In a moment, the head, body, and arm of a large creature became visible, positioned just on the other side of the barrier. It was standing in a quarter-turned position, soaked from the rain, its massive frame clearly not that of a deer or bear. Its arm alone stretched close to 5 feet long. Rocky Mountain Sasquatch is a YouTube channel famous for boots-on-the-ground Sasquatch expeditions across the Rocky Mountains and the Pacific Northwest. Run by seasoned investigator Kelly Shaw, the channel documents sightings, strange sounds, track discoveries, and remote shelter investigations in Bigfoot hotspots with a focus on real-time exploration.
Any footprints or hair?
Everything's wet.
Looks like be a footprint right in there. I need to take a closer look at that to see if it's Bigfoot or bear.
Right there?
Yeah.
It looks like a bear.
In this particular investigation, the team sets off deep into the damp coastal forests of the Pacific Northwest, an area bursting with recent and historical Bigfoot sightings. Towering trees line the narrow trails, and the thick, rain-nourished undergrowth creates an ideal landscape for a hidden creature to thrive. The group gets a rare break in the weather, taking full advantage of the brief sunlight to examine animal trails and creekside activity. They're not just looking, they're actively tracking. Just beyond the water's edge, a sudden distant whoop echoes from up the ridge. The sound is hard to place, possibly a fox, but it carries weight.
Oh, I just heard a whooping sound up there. Wonder if that was a fox.
With a pitch and projection that makes the team pause. Nearby, nestled within the ferns and forest floor, they discover what looks like a natural cave opening. It's large enough to shelter several people. Whether it's used by a bear or a Bigfoot, it immediately stands out as the kind of place a large creature might hide or rest. The cave entrance is surrounded by flattened vegetation and what looks like an attempted ground nest, a classic behavior seen in past Sasquatch reports. The sheer size of the hollow and its secluded location makes it a strong candidate for temporary shelter. Inside the cave-like formation, everything is soaked. The team carefully searches for prints, hair, or any signs of occupation. At first, it seems they've found bear tracks, but upon closer inspection, one particularly large impression in the mud draws their attention. It appears to show toe structure, a wide heel, and possible sliding, as if the creature stepped in while descending into the hollow.
Yeah, it's just not definitive enough to say if it's Bigfoot, bear, or...
The print is distorted by movement, which only adds to the mystery. The toes seem to drive into the ground with enough force to leave defined marks, even in the slippery terrain. One of the team members approaches from a second angle and confirms the shape, the foot, the toe splay, the depth. They estimate the size and consider the possibility that it heard them coming and moved quickly, distorting the track as it slid deeper into cover. Examine this footprint up close and decide for yourself.
I want to get a closer look. Let's see if I can crawl in through here. I see a big old squatch print right there. I want to measure it. That looks like a giant squatch print. I want to measure it. Do you got a tape measure inside your backpack? I've got one in mine. Will you grab it for me?
As the group hikes further into the woods, they begin glassing ridgelines and natural shelters, trying to spot anything unusual. The forest here is dense with fungus, moss, and towering evergreens. While moving through a clearing, they pause at a patch of mushrooms. These types of fungi are abundant in the Pacific Northwest, and the question naturally arises, could Sasquatch be foraging here? The area is known for bear activity, and the overlap in habitat makes it even more plausible. Take in this quiet moment of forest foraging mystery. As the expedition wraps up, the team reflects on what they've seen and heard. Between the footprint, the ground nest, the shelter-like cave, and the vocalizations, the evidence stacks up into an intriguing picture. They've scouted multiple Bigfoot hotspots and have learned to follow not just tracks, but patterns. Places where water meets shelter, where animals behave oddly, where the silence is suddenly broken. These are the places they return to again and again, cameras rolling and eyes open. The team's process: glass the ridge lines, scan the tree lines, check the caves, is repeated on every trip, always hoping to catch the elusive figure that watches silently from the shadows. Trail to Bigfoot is a YouTube channel famous for its boots-on-the-ground expeditions deep into Florida's most mysterious and unnerving swampland. Their footage isn't about fantasy. It's raw, unfiltered, and captures the real-life search for a creature that's haunted human imagination for generations. In this journey, they venture into the green swamp during the first night of their 2021 Florida expedition, an area long rumored to be a hotspot of strange phenomena. With new tech like FLIR and thermal imagers, they don't just explore, they hunt for patterns in darkness, trace heat in thick vegetation, and follow where the trail gets weird. The group begins their night on rough terrain, working deep into the rich loam area. What sounds like an average bug is caught in the camera's mic, but the sheer size and sound of it prompt attention. The air feels different, heavier, like it's charged. Strange knocks, possible tree slaps, and something backing off into the trees are heard. Whatever is out there seems to be watching, staying just out of visible range. The deeper they go, the more disorienting the terrain becomes. At one point, the team warns not to go too far. It's remote, unfamiliar, and cloaked in pitch black. They reach what one of them calls a nice little spot.
It's deep in it. This is a nice little spot. It's very deep in there.
Thick with plant life and silence, the kind of silence that suggests something is listening. The camera cuts through the night with low rumbles in the distance.
Showing off heat signature now, whatever that is. Over here. Stand over here with me. And I can feel the breeze a little bit right here.
They use thermal imaging to scan across the tree line. Subtle movements appear, heat signatures too vague to identify, yet distinct enough to suggest living forms. Two shapes linger across the field of view, holding still, as if assessing from the dark. There's no confirmation of what they are, but the tension shifts. The forest feels alive. A light breeze stirs and someone feels it grounding them in the moment. This isn't imagination. Something is out there.
What they are. Let's see. Yeah, that was out. Point it. That way. Which way? Towards the front of the car. Yeah. I smell skunk. A skunky smell.
So you said that there's movement?
He saw stuff.
Yeah.
Couldn't really make it.
As the group moves further, they head toward a structure previously discovered. It's a lean-to, a teepee-like arrangement of thick branches and logs, unnatural in its precision. It's located in a remote patch, and it hasn't collapsed, confirming its resilience over time. This formation isn't just curious, it's deliberate. It speaks to purpose, maybe intelligence. Viewers can trace the way branches lean and cross, forming patterns that don't align with chance. Not far from the structure, the team hears something, an isolated thud, followed by stillness.
I heard that thud. There's a thud back there. Did you hear it? It
sounded like a car door. Like me down a hog pond.
In these woods, every sound matters. It's not just wildlife rustling. Their experiences suggest territory, zones where activity recurs. They speak on getting repeated evidence, always from the same spots, same angles, same seasons. Even the low grumbles seem familiar. Something moves through this area cyclically, hinting at behavior, not randomness. As clouds cover the moonlight, the darkness presses in, muting everything but the occasional snap or whisper in the brush,
Well, I think they have a territory. I think they move. They're always on the move. But I can tell you that we get evidence that repeats exactly in certain areas, exactly in certain angles. And exactly certain.
They shift paths and follow a known trail, accompanied by a seasoned guide who knows the swamp well. He's not just guiding them, he's navigating a historical minefield. The area, used during World War II for chemical testing and bombing runs, carries its own scars. Flatlands that once served as military airfields now sit, swallowed by swamp and decay. This backdrop gives eerie weight to the setting. What once held man-made destruction now hides something entirely different. The team hears something rush by. Air displacement, but no visible object. It's fast and silent.
Yeah, it's trying to poke his head on up, but yeah, you're right. It's behind the clouds. Otherwise, this area will be getting lit up. Yeah. You're in the area. There's a runway right here. You're in an area where they bombed in the Second World. This was a training area that they bombed chemical weapons out here. Not kidding. So you got swamp creatures. So swamp thing. Yeah, they used to use this as a dropping their chemical weapons range. So yeah, that flat area out there is an airfield. Cool. From the Second World War. Whoa. What was that? I don't know. I heard like something flew through, like... I heard it too. Drone. We've tried...
Feel the unease build. Near this site, frogs scream out into the night. Nature doesn't feel calm. It feels disrupted. Cameras scan wide as light sweeps over the woods. And then, nothing. The stillness becomes louder than the noise. One member heads back toward a nearby area, while another tries to locate the trail. It's easy to get turned around out here. Paths blur into vegetation. Light bounces off thick undergrowth and eyes stay sharp. Then something strange happens. Equipment failures begin stacking up. A main camera seizes without warning. One team member reports their phone acting erratically, calling their mother's answering machine from inside their pocket, without input. They've been here before and experienced similar phenomena. It's a specific spot, and the pattern is now undeniable. What causes it? Nobody knows. But it happens here, and it happens often.
This is the spot where phones and my main camera came out here, and it just outright just stopped functioning. And this is the spot right here.
Review the equipment disruption moment. With EMF meters active and mosquitoes swarming, the team stays alert. Even the animals react. Mice scatter in odd bursts, as if startled by something unseen. A few minutes later, the night closes in. Their first day draws to an end, but the sense of mystery remains thick in the air. Roads stretch endlessly ahead. They drive along a dark stretch known as 471, a 20-mile corridor often rumored to be a crossing path for strange movement. If anything were to appear, this is where it would emerge. End your night ride here.
Whoops, I can't see them. Now this is 471. If anything's going to run across the road, it'll be this road, because this is 20 miles long. Straight shot.
Exploring with Josh is a YouTube channel famous for taking its audience into some of the world's most mysterious and haunted locations, blending adventure with a touch of the paranormal. One of their most chilling videos, Our Terrifying Night at Skinwalker Cave, transports viewers to Lovelock Cave, a site in northern Nevada.
For many years, human remains were put on display in museums here and elsewhere, but that changed. Most of the bones and skulls that were once considered to be...
that holds not just bones and ashes, but an ancient, terrifying story. According to Paiute tribal lore, this cave was once the site of a brutal battle between their ancestors and a race of giants known as the Si Te Ka. These red-haired giants, much taller and stronger than normal humans, were said to be cannibals who tormented the Paiutes for generations.
Generations and generations to their kids, and it keeps everything going, which is exactly the whole thing with the skinwalkers as well.
The giants would raid their villages, kidnap their people, and feast on their flesh. As the stories go, the Paiute tribes, desperate to end the reign of terror, banded together to destroy the giants. In their final stand, the remaining Si Te Ka took refuge in the cave, refusing to come out.
Every month or every so often, the Native Americans had to sacrifice one of their own men to the giants. The giants had right here.
The Paiutes retaliated by setting the cave on fire, using flaming arrows to suffocate and burn the giants alive. Josh delves deep into this tale of ancient conflict, bringing history to the forefront. He explains that although the idea of red-haired giants may sound far-fetched to some,
Bring us to a cave on the top of a mountain, but it does start here at Lovelock Cave, and here's the sign for it.
archaeological evidence suggests otherwise. In the 1800s, miners who stumbled upon Lovelock Cave unearthed large skeletal remains, bones so massive they were thought to belong to these very giants.
For more than a century, a story has persisted about the skeletons of giants being found.
In addition to the giant skeletons, they found remains of Native Americans. Around 60 bodies scattered around the cave, many of whom had been buried there for centuries. For years, these remains were displayed in museums, sparking a larger conversation about what happened in that cave. Eventually, most of the bones were returned to the tribes for burial.
Here's something that really works too, that we find works good. We're gonna take this, we're gonna bring it down there, we're gonna hit record, and we're gonna come back up and then ask the questions.
Good idea.
But Josh's exploration raises the question, could these legends of giants and war be more than just myth? As Josh and his team descend deeper into the cave, the atmosphere turns cold, dense with history. They carefully set up their equipment.
As soon as we get down there, we're gonna set up some more gear. But first, look at the ceiling. It is actually all charred out and completely burned. It looks like somebody set a huge...
Scanning the walls for any signs of the ancient fire that supposedly consumed the giants. The ceiling of the cave bears unmistakable marks of being scorched, charred, blackened stone, evidence of a fire so intense it might have been the one the Paiutes used to trap the giants. With the setup complete, Josh prepares for an Estes session, using a spirit box to attempt communication with whatever spirits may still linger in the cave.
This method.
Seth is going under. We're going to be switching into red. We have headphones. These headphones are going to allow us to do this. The spirit box is going to go on. Once these headphones go on Seth's ears.
As they begin, an eerie noise interrupts the stillness. A motion-triggered object, which should have remained silent, starts lighting up and playing music on its own. No one is near it. The air grows thick with tension as footsteps echo nearby, though no one else is present.
That was as clear as day. Did you just see
I
it?
heard
Like
the
some
rock
of it crumble
drop,
off?
dude. I heard the rock just fall.
Up there!
Up there!
Shit, dude. I'm getting away from that, bro.
Him!
No way!
Oh my...
It becomes clear that something is reacting to their presence, something unseen. The team moves further into the cave, setting up a REM pod to measure any paranormal activity. Suddenly, the pod begins to flash and beep in erratic patterns.
many spirits remain in this cave?
How many giants were here?
Is there anything you want to tell us?
It's reacting to something, but there's no one near it. Each flicker and pulse seems to follow the team's questions. Intelligent responses coming from something beyond the living. When Josh asks about the spirits of those buried in the cave, the pod reacts, lighting up in confirmation.
Yup.
Yeah, keep
Oh
doing
my
that.
god.
Please.
Oh my.
Guys,
It's gonna pop.
yes. Keep going, please. Almost there.
The crew is left stunned as the flashing becomes more pronounced, seemingly answering their queries. The team then turns their attention to a deeper question. Is this place haunted by spirits of the past? And, more specifically, do the ancestors of the Paiutes still roam these dark chambers? The response is unmistakable. The pod flickers again. Josh and his team realize they are not alone. This exploration isn't just about uncovering the past. It's about facing the unanswered questions that linger in the dark corners of history. It captures the kind of eerie, inexplicable moments that make this channel so gripping, leaving viewers with a lingering sense that maybe, just maybe, there are forces in these caves that refuse to be forgotten.
If it wasn't for you guys, this video wouldn't be a thing. Like, we had so much evidence. You guys guided us here. We know about the history because of you guys. Everything about this video.
Exploring with Angelo is a YouTube channel famous for diving headfirst into abandoned and haunted locations that many would never dare to step foot in alone. In his video titled Very Scary Solo Camping in Skinwalker Canyon, something wasn't right. Angelo ventures solo into a desolate canyon in the American West. From the first few minutes, there's something unsettling about the place. The wind moves through with a low hum.
I just heard the weirdest noise down there. Whoa, look at these freaking rocks. That is so cool. Dude, it almost doesn't even look real.
And the silence between gusts is thick and unnatural. As Angelo surveys the rocky terrain, he points out a small sign warning about rattlesnakes in the area, just another layer of danger added to an already isolating location. Nearby sits a single, weather-worn picnic bench, completely out of place in the wild emptiness of the canyon.
Okay. Oh yeah, look at that. There's like boulders and stuff down.
As he walks around, the land dips into strange formations, massive boulders jutting out like ancient bones of the earth.
Something was just like tapping on the glass.
He pauses when he hears something faint, a sound that doesn't match the rhythm of the wind. There's nothing visible, but something about the acoustics in this canyon makes everything sound closer than it should. These opening moments give the strong impression that this isn't just a quiet night in the desert. This place holds secrets buried in silence.
I swear, some of these places out here in the West, it's like we're in fucking Mars or something. It's pretty amazing. I don't know what's down there, but I guess we could go like down in that area.
It feels like stepping into another planet. A jagged Mars-like landscape, too vast and barren to feel safe.
It's like literally like almost Mars or some other planet. I don't even know. Maybe Uranus? I have no idea.
Something out here is watching. Observe this moment. Night approaches fast. Angelo had planned to continue driving, but the growing darkness and the strangeness of the landscape convince him to camp for the night.
I think I might set up camp here. I don't think there's a point in really leaving. I hope whatever's out here, I do hope we actually catch.
He sets up his gear and powers on Spirit Talker, a device often used in paranormal investigations to receive supposed real-time messages from spirits. He doesn't know much about the canyon.
Just continue on my drive tomorrow. I'm gonna actually get Spirit Talker running, because we don't really know what the hell is out here.
Only rumors, eerie tales, and unsettling comparisons to other high strangeness locations. As he gets his flashlight ready, a sense of vulnerability creeps in. The open desert around him provides no shelter, and the shadows stretch endlessly between jagged rock faces and the loose gravel underfoot. The wind continues howling, stronger now.
We're hearing stories of some creature-esque type thing, and we want to know what that creature-esque type thing might be.
And every gust seems to bring with it the possibility of something more, something not quite animal, not quite explainable. He decides to walk further into the canyon, navigating by flashlight, aware that any wrong step could land him on a snake, or worse. The deeper he goes, the more surreal the landscape becomes. He comments on how everything looks so unnatural.
Right now, it's very odd because the last place it actually said piano.
Need time.
Towering stone formations that resemble ruins from another world. His spirit talker begins throwing out strange words. Associated, then Virginia, making it feel like he's being toyed with, as if something knows he's there.
Associated.
You're associated to what? So what if, like, my kind of idea is that, like...
He pauses often, looking over his shoulder. Something flashes in the corner of his eye. Just movement, quick, far, and low. The isolation is overwhelming, yet he keeps going, driven by the need to understand what truly haunts this desert. Experience the descent.
Cut.
Cut what?
What follows is even more bizarre. While navigating through uneven terrain and cracked stone formations, Angelo comes across a boulder that has been split clean in half, as if it were deliberately cracked not by nature, but by something else. He stumbles slightly as the ground shifts beneath him, revealing a bleached white object protruding from the soil. Upon closer inspection, it becomes clear. It's a bone.
What am I looking at right now? That is really weird. I don't know what that is. It looks like a skull of some sort. It has to be.
Not just any bone, but what appears to be a partial skull with vertebrae still attached. He crouches in disbelief. Out here, so far from civilization, this is not something you'd expect to find by accident. The shape, the condition, everything about it is wrong. It's not fresh, but it's not ancient either. The presence of this remains stirs something in the air. The canyon feels like it holds its breath. The deeper he explores, the less it feels like a camping trip and more like an initiation into something eerie and ancient. Rocks begin to resemble faces in the flicker of flashlight beams.
Places I've ever investigated before. Yeah, there's literally something sticking out of that. Oh my god, that was a bird.
A strange buzzing in his ears rises, though the wind never changes pace. It's as if the canyon is whispering just below the range of human hearing. As he stands over the bones, a sharp chill hits him. Not from the air, but something internal, as if the energy of the canyon has passed through him. The direction he saw the strange shape earlier seems to line up with where he now stands, near the broken rocks and mysterious remains. His voice becomes quieter, more cautious. Something is very wrong here. See this chilling discovery unfold. As we wrap up this exploration of Bigfoot and other cryptids, one thing is clear. The wilds of our world are filled with mysteries that remain unsolved. But what do you think? Who truly rules the wild? Is it the mighty Bigfoot with its unmatched size and stealth? Or is there another creature out there, waiting to claim its place in the world's myths and legends? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing your theories and ideas. If you enjoyed this deep dive into cryptid lore, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more videos like this. We'll keep investigating, searching, and bringing you the latest discoveries from the wild. Thanks for watching, and until next time, Stay curious, stay cautious, and keep exploring.